Hey, hey, I think I'm live. I think I'm live. Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome to how to engage the alienated or alienating and alienated parent and child in reunification. This is the series of reuniting for professionals, and I'm glad that you're here right now so that I can show you the process that we've taught many professionals on how to actually recover healthy parent-child bonds and reunite parents and children after a high conflict divorce. And if you're ready to implement the proven systems that we've been using since 2006 to assist parents and children to reunite, then you are in the right place. And in this series, I've been focusing on empowering professionals with skills and tools needed to really help families in these high conflict custody battles, keep the children out of the middle, and how to create a solution-focused team and protocol in their location or in working with these families. So if you're a lawyer, mental health professional, coach, somebody working with these families, maybe you're a parenting coordinator or guardian ad litem, then stick around. I'm going to be sharing with you strategies on how to engage and why it's important to engage every member of the family when you're trying to reunite or when you're actually reuniting families. So we know that the system is failing families, and I trust that you're here because you want to do what works and you really want to solve the problem and you want to help more families. And you know that it's very challenging for professionals working this family dynamic because most of the professionals are not trained on how to actually successfully solve this problem. And it's not really your fault. It's because it's not really being taught anywhere. It's certainly not taught in university when mental health providers go through training, and certainly not for legal professionals either. And oftentimes these families are showing up in family court, asking the family court system to solve a mental health crisis in their family. So when you know how to properly identify the problem and you have a system that's duplicatable that you follow and implement over and over and over again, you are able to have a solution that works. And in the last video, we discussed how you can provide support for children that are affected by the family dynamic known as alienation or child psychological abuse. And you learned what some about some of the trauma-informed interventions that we teach that really help children rebuild trust and emotional bonds, and how to prioritize the emotional needs of children when you're doing reunification. So you're in the right place if you are a reunification specialist or a professional who is working with this complex family trauma. And I get asked all of the time, how in the world do you get the alienating parent to cooperate? And how do you get the targeted parent to stabilize? And how do you get the children to show up in therapy when the alienating parent is running roughshod over the family? And, you know, people ask me, what are the strategies to really help alienated parents regain their control or their role in the child's life, and how can we empower them to really overcome this family dynamic? And what do I do when the child absolutely refuses and the allied parent refuses to bring the child in for therapy? So these are many things that people ask us a lot, and we have a very high success rate of reuniting children, and we get court ordered all over the world. And the reason is because we follow a step-by-step process. So from getting to a reunification, during the reunification, and after. And the first thing that reunification specialists really need to do when you are wanting to engage the parents is you have to start with a plan that everyone is a part of, which begins with conflict resolution skills and de-escalating the conflict. And if you missed what I said, let me say it one more time. Reunification starts with a plan, a step-by-step plan that everyone is a part of, not just the targeted parent, not just the children, both parents and the children. And that doesn't mean they all have to do it together. It means that you have to have a plan and conflict resolution skills for everyone. So one of the primary reasons that it's important for you as a reunification specialist to implement a step-by-step conflict resolution process is you've got to de-escalate the high levels of tension and hostility between the parents. You also have to engage everyone in the plan. And if they don't participate, then it escalates your role in getting tighter, more restrictive court orders, which I'll talk about in a minute. So high conflict situations can be emotionally charged. They make it difficult for both parents to communicate effectively. And when you introduce effective conflict resolution processes, then you can help the parents and the children work through issues in a calm and productive manner. One of the things that's very common in this family dynamic are issues that aren't real issues. So oftentimes when you get to the stage of having to do reunification, you're dealing with false allegations, or you're dealing with some things that happen that become an unforgivable event. And what I see that one of the greatest tragedies and biggest mistakes I see reunification specialists make all the time is you focus on an issue that isn't a real issue, or a problem that actually cannot be resolved. And so round and round and round and round you go, and nothing gets resolved. And so a ninja skill is to put a ceasefire, a hold on the past. So you allow the family and the child, especially the reprieve of having to try and solve something that can't be solved, an issue or a non-issue that keeps getting discussed over and over and over again. So when you implement a step-by-step plan and you implement a ceasefire, a moratorium on the past, you free the members of the family from being stuck in the past to being forward focused, moving forward. So you have to have a well-designed conflict resolution process that provides structure and guidance throughout the entire process, ensuring that all the participants have an opportunity to express themselves without feeling judged or criticized, even if you disagree or they disagree with each other. So as a reunification specialist, you have to have a step-by-step conflict resolution plan that will better equip at identifying those triggers that can escalate tension during the sessions and help the family as they're going through these challenging times. And when you implement the structured approach to resolving conflict, it really helps the family heal the relationships and move forward. So instead of having these sporadic, up and downs of emotions and focusing on issues that aren't real issues and then focusing on the same thing over and over and over again, that holds the family stuck. So you have to have a conflict resolution plan, a step-by-step process to lift the family out of the pathology. Next, as we are working with teaching our reunification coaches how to actually solve this problem in families, emotional management techniques are important to diffuse tension. So as a reunification specialist, it's important to not only focus on resolving conflict, but also empower the parents and children with emotional management techniques. And this is because high conflict situations often lead to those intense, unmanaged, unhinged emotions like anger, frustration, anxiety, spinning. They spin. And when we provide them with effective emotional regulation or emotional management techniques, then they can learn how to diffuse tension and better cope with their emotions, especially when you're dealing with pathogenic parents. So one technique can be useful in regards to helping manage emotions is teaching them mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness really helps people become more aware of their thoughts and feelings without judgment and reaction. So when we're practicing mindfulness regularly, parents and children can develop a greater self-awareness, which can help them manage their emotions more effectively. A lot of therapists that we work with implement techniques like CBT therapy, which focuses on identifying negative thought patterns that contribute to negative emotions, such as anxiety or depression, and fear and shame and anxiety, all of those things, right? And working through CBT exercises will really help each person in the family on how to reframe negative thoughts into positive ones, which really leads to improved mood and better relationships. So as a reunification specialist, You want to teach relaxation techniques. You want to help them learn how to deep breathe and progress in their solution focused model versus conflict, stuck in the conflict. So you want to have them learn stress reduction techniques that are triggering the body's natural relaxation response. And you want to teach communication skills like active listening and assertiveness training. And you really want to help parents express themselves clearly while avoiding misunderstandings and misinterpretations, and teaching children how to have a balanced view of both parents. Problem solving is another important aspect of empowering parents and children to really manage their emotions during reunification. So when they're faced with a difficult situation or decision, it's important to help them problem solve versus avoid or conflict avoid. You know, when we learn to effectively solve problems and we collaborate together and we brainstorm for a solution, it helps the family work together versus, you know, putting the elephant in the room or focusing on an issue that isn't a real issue, or continually focusing on the same thing that becomes the unforgivable event. So if you find yourself in your therapy session stuck with the same thing over and over and over again, you've got to take a leadership role in therapy. And you should be taking a leadership role, especially when you're doing reunification anyway, because when you're dealing with this family dynamic, you need to take a neutral leadership role. Neutral, don't mistake, doesn't mean hands off. Neutral doesn't mean there's nothing for me to do, I'm just an observer. Neutral means you're not picking sides. There is team family, that's your client. So when you're engaging parents and learning how to get the child and the alienated parent to fold back in, you have to establish the influential roles for the alienated parent. So as the reunification therapist or specialist, it's really important that you have a system in order in place, right, to establish the role of the alienated parent. In other words, reverting the inverted family hierarchy. It means you need to work with both parents to help them understand their roles in the child's life and how they can positively and negatively influence the child's behaviors and emotions. So when you're implementing a system as a reunification specialist, you have to invert the family hierarchy. So the alienated children are free to love both parents and receive love from both parents, and also be a kid again. So this involves helping the parents understand how they contributed positively to their child's life and negatively, and how they're undermining or competing with each other. Now, that doesn't mean that they have equal. So neutral doesn't mean equal. They're both equally contributing, because that's very seldom the case when you're dealing with an emotional cutoff between a parent and a child. Oftentimes, it's the alienating, the pathogenic parent is causing a lot of the problems. And these people, we still need to empathize and have compassion for them. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we give into what they're doing. We have to empower them with healthy skills, and we have to also empower the other parent. So empowering both parents and children with emotional management techniques not only helps them manage difficult situations more effectively, but also encourages greater communication with everyone. So by creating an environment where everyone feels heard and understood and respected, becomes easier for families going through this complex family trauma. So you have to have a step-by-step conflict resolution process, combining empowering emotional management techniques that will enable you to achieve successful outcomes in reuniting estranged families. And through consistent effort, all the parties involved, including you, as well as other family members, if they are affected by the separation, you can restore broken family relationships. When you're establishing influential roles with the alienated parent, it's really a crucial first step in the reunification process. This is the first step, and it involves taking the power away from the alienating parent and child who may have been manipulated, or the alienating parent who may be manipulating the situation, and creating that distance between the parent and the child. So as the reunification specialist, you have to take the lead role. You have to be in charge, and you have to set the ground rules from the beginning. And solving this problem in the family does not happen in traditional talk therapy, and it does not happen in a vacuum. And oftentimes the courts get it wrong, and therapists are making mistakes because they're focusing on just the child, and they're focusing on the alienated parent. And the alienating parent, the one who's the driving force between the conflict, is not getting the treatment that they need. So you're treating the other members of the family when the driving force of the problem is not getting treatment. It's a whole family problem, requires a whole family solution. You have to involve all of the family members. And when you're involving the targeted parent, you have to treat them with love and respect and compassion, because they are also traumatized. And one of the greatest tragedies I see in this family dynamic in therapy is the constant beating down of the targeted parent, forcing them to take responsibility for issues that aren't real issues or things that didn't really happen. And I've heard therapists say, you got to apologize because they've come to believe it to be true. Well, that's just reinforcing a delusion. And then as a treating reunification specialist or therapist, you have to be in the active leadership role. That means you set the rules from the beginning, and having a plan and a structure to do that is mission critical. And in order to establish roles, it's important for you to involve everyone. You can't just work with one person. You cannot reunite a child and a parent with only meeting with the child or the parent. And you can't do it separately. It's a whole family problem that requires a whole family solution. So involving the alienating parent can be challenging, as they may resist change and refuse to participate fully in therapy or reunification. And you give them the opportunity to participate. And if they don't, then that might require a court order from either Child Protective Services or family court, mandating all parties involved to participate, and maybe placement of the child with the alienated, the left behind parent, at least temporarily, while the reunification process starts. So it depends on the level, and it depends on the engagement of the pathogenic parent. The ultimate goal of the orders would be to protect the child, while also ensuring each party receives the adequate support during this difficult process. So it requires whole family solution, all members of the family participating. And when we leave the alienating parent out, we're leaving out a critical component of solving the problem. And so you, as the therapist or coach, whoever's doing the work, have to take an active, proactive leadership role with a plan. There is no well, I'm just going to get to know people. You actually have to start with obviously knowing what's happening in the family before you even get to the reunification process, which we've talked about a lot already in some of the previous videos or lessons in this series. So if you haven't watched those, I suggest going back to them. So it's important that we understand the patterns of behavior, that we teach parents the negative patterns of behavior that they have and what they should be doing instead. So it's not enough to just identify. It's also important to teach them what to do instead. So improving their new behaviors or new patterns of behavior, and creating a cohesive, cooperative family dynamic. And it's built on healthy communication skills, emotional regulation, and conflict management or conflict resolution skills. So you have an influential role when you are working with these families. And as a reunification specialist, it's your role to design the reunification protocol so that all members of the family are supported and heard. And you do this by practicing active listening, as well as taking that leadership role and explaining what's going on. You have to help the family move forward. So as a reunification specialist, your key role is to help the parents regain their roles as healthy, authentically loving parents, and lifting the child out of the middle so that they can have a relationship with both parents. And when we empower parents to overcome these barriers and reconnect with their children, we are in essence solving transgenerational trauma in the family. This family dynamic happens. It's born out of transgenerational trauma. It's born out of unhealed trauma in the parent or parents that have children. And now the trauma reenactment is happening in the family. So as a reunification specialist, it's your role, our role, to reset the family and teach them skills that they need to ultimately reunite and live in a cohesive post-divorce family dynamic. And it requires active participation by everyone involved, including the extended family members if they're involved and caught up in the conflict. So that is really the fifth step in the reunification coach certification program, and the second step in the recover and rebuild phase. So the beginning of the series, I talked about discovering and decoding, where we use the investigate and analyze analytics system to really investigate what's going on in the family, get all the facts and gather the history to understand how did the family get there. Then decoding it, what does it mean? Pinpointing the problems to really create an appropriate intervention. And then you create a tailored solution, a solution-focused reunification plan using the intervention architecture or architect framework and presenting it to the family. Then in phase 2 is recover and build. And the first part we talked about last week, the child champion process, which is really to ensure that the child has a proper support system and the core mechanisms of really resolving those high-stake family conflict and reunification protocols through the parental engagement system I was talking about today. And then the last step in phase 2 is customizing your bonding catalyst process. And this is really implementing the effective strategies, the effective reunification plan each and every day like clockwork with the family. So helping them implement this, not just in your office or in your workshop or however you're doing reunification, but also in their everyday life. And then the third stage or phase is the restore and reunite. And once you discover and decode, and you understand what's going on and you're recovering and rebuilding, you've got everybody actively engaged, then we move into the restore and reunite phase. And this is where we really transform the family. And this allows the empowerment of the whole family solution, engaging all of the family members, and then monitoring and maintaining progress so that you can prevent relapse. And we have a unique model called the progress sustainer. So the checks and balances along the way, so you know what are the trigger events of what possibly and what happens if they fall off the path and how to get them back on quickly. So this is all about teaching you how to teach them, how to empower them and recover the family. And then the final step in the reunification coach training is learning how to navigate the ethical and legal challenges that are common dealing with this family dynamic. So learning how to protect your license if you're a licensed professional, and how to operate ethically so that you can actually solve the problem. And so if you haven't figured it out, the reunification coach training is a step-by-step process. So no stone gets left unturned. It's every step of the way you learn from the beginning to end what's going on in the family. And the beautiful thing about the work that we do is this isn't just for alienation, if you will. We uncover all of the types of abuse. So physical, sexual abuse, all the types of abuse, psychological abuse, which is really what alienation is. We want to help you uncover what is actually happening in the family, because we know these families, these cases are wrought with chaos and confusion and allegations and abuse, all kinds, and real abuse and imagined abuse and trauma everywhere. And so the training provides you trauma-informed skills and training so that you understand how to manage this very traumatic family dynamic. So if you are interested in learning more about becoming a certified reunification coach, then click the link that my team is putting in the comments section and schedule a call to speak with somebody on my team about our training. And if you are interested, we'd love to have you, or love to have a conversation with you to see if it's a good fit. So I want to thank you so much for participating and listening today. Just remember that the coach training is really for somebody who is committed to achieving family reunification success in their practice. And you're open to working closely with me, a certified coach, in becoming certified in protocols and processes that actually work to recover families. And you're really ready to make a long-lasting change for the well-being of the families that you serve. So thank you so much for listening today. Click the link in the comments and schedule a call with somebody on my team. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.